Got
All
it.
right. So I've heard that you have a learning difference. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that? I only know like basic stuff.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with dyslexia at age 6.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing weird things like I couldn't remember to put spaces in between my words,
Mm.
and math, like, could not understand. I actually had a teacher freak out on me, and that was when my parents were like, I swear she's not dumb. So, let's
Nice.
test her and see what's wrong. So then I was lucky, and I went to a school called the Carroll School, which is in Lincoln, Mass, and it is for specifically dyslexia and like
Hmm.
dyscalculia.
Wow.
But yeah, you have to like prove that you have dyslexia and then do an IQ test or whatever.
Hmm.
So that was really cool. And
Yeah.
since then, they have grown so much as a school, and they do all these really cool 3D printing things. It's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of hands-on activities. Um, Sorry if I'm going overboard. Was
No.
that too much information?
So how did your parents like they obviously knew that you were very smart and that you're having some
Hopefully.
difficulty. Like how did you get diagnosed? Did you do a test? Did you do an evaluation?
Yeah, and it's so hard because I'm sure you know these
Right.
tests are not cheap
Right.
and they take a long time. Um, and a lot of time there's a lot of assumptions that go along with dyslexic test taking. Like they'll assume it comes with ADHD and kind of like push you towards that. But I remember taking the test actually in the current school that I was in before Carroll School, and it was like a 3-day test taking thing. And they do all these interesting like cognitive tests on you. So
Mhm.
it's not just reading and writing, but you're sitting there like playing with like little things or like how long does this circle take to go? And it's just like spatial aware. It's very interesting,
Like
but
all the different things.
all the things. And then once I was diagnosed, I have to, because I was getting, I had an IEP.
Hmm.
So every few years, I would have to be retested to see what I needed for the IEP or if my dyslexia was getting worse or just to kind of see where I am,
Hmm.
where I was, how I was doing.
Did you find the IEP difficult to obtain or difficult to manage or anything like that? Was it pretty straightforward?
It was pretty straightforward. I think because I went to a school that focused on dyslexia. And
Yeah.
then when I got out of school, I went to a very small boarding school, and the IEP switched over probably because of the Carroll School.
Hmm.
And I had a tutor that I got to meet with once a week. I had smaller class sizes and just a lot of help that I needed. And it was nice to be in the school
Yeah.
because if I had needed that extra help, I knew exactly where the teachers were. Those poor things were probably like bombarded by me all the time. But that was how I got by making friends with my teachers a lot of the time.
Well, that's awesome that you have like that connection because I know a lot of people don't have that, you know?
Yeah, I am very lucky how that all played out because I definitely got a lot of support. And it helped me in the future know what I needed to ask for, know how to be direct with what I needed. So
Mm.
they definitely push you to like ask questions a lot and make sure you get what you need because it is hard.
So when you went to college, was it that did you continue to get support or did you not have any accommodations or how did that work?
So I had to take another test again to go into college to get accommodations in college. And the school I went to, American University, and one of the reasons I picked that there, it's in DC.
Hmm.
DC was one of the reasons, and they had a really good learning disability program there. So I also had a tutor. I still remember her, Babita. She was great. I had smaller classes again, and just kind of now that I was older, made sure I knew to find the services that I needed. So if I need extra help with math, which I hate math, um, that I had a lot of extra help on.
That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
that your school had built-in stuff to help?
Yeah, not a lot of them do.
Right,
It's
right.
hard to find. I
So
mean, I know there's a law now too, like the Act, Disability Act, and I'm forgetting the full name of it, but that's supposed to make it so all children in public schools have IEPs if they need them. It's mandated to be paid
right,
for. But
right.
people find ways around that
I
all the
mean, it
time.
doesn't always work out that way, but
Yeah.
that is the
Very
idea.
lucky. Hmm.
So then tell me a little bit about what you do now, um, and your process.
Well, I went to social work school, just graduated in May, and
Awesome.
thank you. It was very, it was such a fun experience, but definitely reminding myself how academia does not come that easily to me. So I actually found they didn't have accommodations at NYU, which is
Mhm.
weird. They had very limited accommodations, and that's how I found Reagan. And so
Yeah.
she like helped me a lot. Like I would write my paper and then she would like help me make it just, stick to the point. Sometimes I would like veer off and go on tangents and she was very good at like being a writing coach for me.
That's awesome.
Um, and now I'm actually studying for a license. I have to be licensed in New York to work clinically,
Mhm.
social work, because I'm definitely focused more on um, neuro differences. I want to work with kids that are kind of similar to me,
Mhm.
autism, ADHD. Um, Neurodiversity is really what I've been passionate about. So now that I have my test date, which is in August 31st, I'm now applying to jobs and kind of figuring out what I want from that.
Well,
But
that's awesome. It's good that you can, like, use your experience to help other kids.
yeah,
Another I wonder if you could, like if you could give a piece of advice to someone who is trying to get the support they need, like, what do you think you would say? Because I know you've been through some of the same processes. Um, yeah, just
yeah, definitely practicing advocating for yourself and don't be ashamed if like you just have anxiety to do it and like knowing how to work around those anxieties.
Mhm.
So even when I was applying to jobs, like I still get a little anxious, feeling like inferiority complex issues, like
Yeah.
it just happens to all of us. And like understanding like that's a natural feeling and you have to push through and force yourself to advocate, force yourself to be loud, like the squeaky wheel. It's a good thing to be a squeaky wheel,
Mhm.
because no one is going to help you if you don't ask for it. And we all deserve it, to have what we need to strive or thrive. I also had COVID like 2 weeks ago, and this like my words have been so jumbled lately.
Oh
I'm
my god.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I feel like everyone's getting COVID now, it's just
It wasn't
everything's messed up.
good.
So, another speaking of COVID,
Mm,
um, do you I mean, I think during COVID, a lot of kids with learning differences really fall behind. Um, how do you think that schools can help kids catch up?
it's a great
Because
question. Mhm.
virtual learning, like, it's just not the same. It really kids don't really respond the same. So, how do you think, like, schools can help kids catch up or kids can help themselves catch up, to just reach that baseline that COVID set them back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because I know that there's a lot of very negative thoughts on how far back people have been set, but I really think that kids are very resilient, and it
Right.
really is about. I think the most important thing working in a school for my internship
Mhm,
was developing relationships, especially kids that are neurodiverse.
mhm,
They're told all the time they're not good enough, or they feel, even if they're not told it, they feel it. So
mhm,
just being that person that like maybe you'll do math with them, but make sure that you are creating that safe space
mhm.
and let them trust you. I think teachers, they really need to hire more teachers, pay teachers better. I know that's
Right.
like obvious, but for some reason teachers are not paid enough, and there needs to be just more money funded into providing the education of how to teach kids that are neurodiverse, because those kids can't just learn regularly on Zoom. They're going to
Right,
be so distracted. And if you just pretend it's like willy nilly, this is it, this is what we have, and not think big
right.
picture, it's not going to change. So it's just having more um, connecting to resources, working together. I think people really need to start working together, putting their resources together to help the kids.
So at your school, was there one, like, I know you had different resources, but how did they teach you? Like, was there one thing that they did that other schools could do that could be,
Implemented.
deployed throughout that would really help kids that are, like you said, neurodiverse?
Is it my dyslexic school, like from when I was a kid, or the
Yes.
one?
Well,
Oh,
anyone. I'm just, you know.
I guess it really depends on the age that you're working with.
Mhm.
When I went to school, I think I was 7, so I couldn't even read yet. I
Yeah.
was like fake reading to pretend, and it was really. And I know that I'm forgetting what the actual teaching method is. And it's
Mhm.
probably a really famous one. I feel bad that I can't remember. But like we started off just with the alphabet. Every single letter had a character. So
Mm.
like Mr. A, the apple, is friends with B. I don't remember what B was. But then like once we got past that, we got to each diphthong was a character and a story. Because I feel like if you're making it tangible by creating like, I guess that you're making them think something they can think about, not
Yeah.
just like, oh, I have to read. It's like, oh, A apple says A because he's talking to B or something like that. And that was a whole thing. And honestly, I learned how to read that year, like quick. And I think all of
Yeah,
us
like
did.
that really worked for you.
Yeah, because it was like a visual, and it created more fun environment.
Mhm.
So I think for young people, definitely that. But that is also like it is a lot of resources to have people trained in that type of stuff. So I know that that's something else. And
Mhm.
then for the school that I worked with for NYU, it was trauma focused. And it was kids that either had to leave their old school or because of like outside circumstances, either they were runaways or homeless or
Mhm.
something in their life made it so they had to not go to school anymore. And then Urban Dove, which was the school I worked with, kind of found these children and gave them like a second chance.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a really cool program.
Awesome.
And they focus on the neurosequential model. Have you heard of that? It's like it was a by shit, sorry, I swore. Cut that out. It was meant to be the study of the brain, and then they developed the study into how to work with children, and it's all about gaining that trust and gaining that relationship and consistency so people feel safe to learn.
Mm.
And then that's like the big first step. Like you develop these relationships with the kids.
Mhm.
And then they're like, because when you're anxious and when you're stressed, when you're dealing with trauma or learning disability, your brain shuts off. Like nothing can get to your cortex. It's all stuck on the other two. So it's just having that environment where you feel safe to learn. It's
Wow.
very
That's awesome. And the school you what is the school you worked with? What is it called again? Urban
Urban Dove
Urban Dove
2.
2. Love it.
2 in the Bronx. It's like the longest word ever, longest name ever.
Well, that's awesome. Do you it has that really have you seen, like, kids really respond to that? Like, they feel really safe?
A few of them do. I know that it's hard when you're dealing with a lot of outside, like socioeconomic difficulties. Like
Mhm.
that was a frustrating space to be in because I could hang out with a student and they'll leave feeling great, but then if they're having problems at home, like that, how much am I helping them? Because maybe they're not learning because their dad is
Yeah,
like,
that's half the story.
yeah, so it's like these resources, like finding the resources and connecting families and kids. I think like I keep saying like, oh, I think it's like when you make sure that the family is included in your child's learning,
Mhm.
The family as well is very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And especially like parental support, like that all makes a huge difference
Yeah.
in kids, their education, like their whole lives really, but especially
Yeah,
their education.
definitely.
Um, so that is awesome.
Even as like a 32-year-old, I'm like, I really hope my parents like are happy with me, you know? So it's like
I
you
know.
never grow out of it.
It's just a fact, I guess.
Yeah, sorry to tell you.
That's awesome. Well, I don't I that's my questions for now, but I wondered if you have anything else you want to say or anything you want to add. Um,
I kind of just wanted to ask a little bit about what got you interested in this and just hear kind of what's going on. Regan was raving about you and just saying how
yeah.
awesome you are. So,
So me, my sister has dyslexia and ADHD and dysgraphia, ADD, and all the things.
mhm.
And I don't have any of that. Like, and we're twins, so it's very interesting. And
Yeah.
so, like, me growing up with that is like me seeing everything that's going on with her, and she's had resources that most people don't have that, like you had too. It's like, the special tutor, the special, um,
Yeah.
services, and that really, like, kind of inspired me to be like, well, in my city, New Orleans, it's the worst of the worst. We're 50th on 50 states for education, and most of it is literacy. Like, our literacy problem is enormous. I think it's something like 40% of kids can't read by the time they're in 3rd grade, and then after 3rd grade, they don't teach them to read anymore, so you lose it, like, you lose the opportunity, and that leads to crime, it leads to, socioeconomic problems. I mean, there's all these problems, but really, one reason why kids aren't learning to read is that there's no resources, and that's a big problem. And so just from my perspective, seeing how much of an effect those resources have made on my family and my sister, um, is that's kind of my whole thing is like, how can we fix this? Like, me
I
personally,
literally have shivers hearing you talk. Like it's so true. You're getting me excited.
it's true, but it's like, how can we fix this? And
Yeah.
money is a huge part of it, and obviously that's not going to change overnight, but also just like hearing about other people's stories, like access to resources, national resources, um, learning about the process, advocating for yourself, advocating for IP, like that's just kind of the whole thing. So
And I
that's
actually had to fight a lot for the kids to get make sure their IEPs are being met. So
right.
like that was me, that was a resource that they came to me and then I would work with the DOE and kind of make sure that they were getting what they needed.
Mhm.
So like every person helps.
Right. Like all the steps along the way, like people and websites and other resources, but just like the big issue is like getting what you need to learn to, become your full self. So that's
Yeah.
just kind of what I was thinking.
That's so true. And a little, I don't know, this is like a funny anecdote, but my brother's not my twin, but he's my Irish twin, so we're very close in age. He is not dyslexic either.
Hmm.
And he told me he was at a conference. He works for a private equity firm, and he was sitting down with some dad at a bar, and like he was talking about like he has such a smart daughter, she's a genius, da da da, and then she's like, what, but my son, he's dyslexic and like we just don't know what to do with him. And my
Oh my
brother,
God.
because of all the things I've talked to, all the research
Right.
I've done on the dyslexic brain for my own purposes, he
Mhm.
was like, oh my God, you don't know how lucky you are that you have a dyslexic kid. He's probably smarter than all of you.
Right.
And my brother was like going off, and I literally
Right.
cried when I heard that because I was like, wow, John, you really do listen to me. Like, it's so nice.
Yeah, you think we don't listen, but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, people like you, like advocating, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And is your sister, does she help you out with this, or is she in her doing her own path?
She's doing her own thing. She has awesome business that she's doing, so she loves it, and
Wow, you 2 are awesome.
I'm telling you, she's smarter than me, so I can't
You
not a
both
joke,
are
it's true.
just as smart, just different types of smart.
Right.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, thank you for talking with me. I
Thank
know,
you. This
like,
was a
you've
delight,
had COVID and all these things have happened, but I'm really glad that we were able to, get together and talk.
and I feel like my brain didn't mess up as bad as it could have, so this was
Oh, well,
good.
that's good.
But cut out the swears. I swear, cut out the weird things I did.
Alright, well, thank you so much.
Of course,
I
and if
love
you need
talking to you.
any or want any resources, I know, like, a good podcast, there's
I
some
would
books.
love that, if you have anything, like, just, like, email it to me, I'll make sure to put it on my website and check it out.
Perfect. Okay, and, can you send me your website too? I would love
Yes,
to
I
check it out.
can, of
Okay,
course.
perfect. Thank you.
Alright. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
much.
Have a
Alright,
great night. We'll
thank
talk.
you. Alright,
Bye.
bye.